Now, guys, we're back with Yellow. We've had some technical difficulties, so this is actually a re-recording, which means we have all our grades here already since we did all this once. That being said, we'll probably make it a bit faster this time around, and we're going to be making it more shorthand. So the first card is RR00, Global Support that Joan of Arc. You can tap her to flip a face-down card in your level zone face up, which in effect lets you reuse effects such as the 1-0 Chiron. It lets you manipulate things with, well, I mean, it just lets you reuse the cards in the bottom, in your level zone. Now, you can actually unflip cards other ways. So, for example, if you swap a card into your level zone, swapping out a face-down card will let you swap in a face-up card. So this is not necessarily an auto-include, but if you decide that this is what you want to do to recycle your level zone to give yourself the colors back and everything, then this is a perfectly reasonable card, and that's why we've both given it a C+ rating.
Yeah.
Right,
So lets you brainstorm in the same turn, which the level swapper does not do.
Yes, it does, unless you're using the John brainstorm, in which case it does not. Alright, the next card is Luminosité Eternelle, Joan. That's a Noble Phantasm flag. It is a early summon if you have 2 or fewer climax cards in your waiting room. When you play it to hand, from hand to stage, you can draw a card, and then choose up to 1 cost 1 or lower character in your hand, play it to stage for free. Now, and it also has, at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can ditch a card from hand. If you do, give something 2k for the turn. So that means you can preemptively counter for each copy of this you have on the field. It's not a particularly powerful effect, but it is certainly there, especially because advanced summons are mostly dealt with using either other advanced summons, which oftentimes are too big for this to bother with. It only gets to 11.5 pre-counter, or bombs, which get rid of it no matter how big you are. It should also be mentioned that this card cannot proc on play effects, such as the 2-1 Astolfo, which can bond a anti-damage event, because you are putting it into play, you're not playing it. And therefore, this is not quite as good as it might seem, but it is still a very fine advanced summon. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to just have a couple in your deck. There's no real requirement. It cantrips, and it even has the ability to be played for free off another 1-0 that we'll get to later, called Letitia. And there is like a little dance that you can do with that and the other level 3 ruler. So yeah, we've given them B+, and the next card will be Sieg. Sieg is a level 3 finisher. He comes to play, you draw a card and give itself 2k. When you reverse its battle opponent, you can ditch a card, put the 1-0 combo Fran from memory to waiting room, and then sack this. If you do, choose up to 1 Fafnir, which we'll cover later. It's a big dragon that has it's a come play heal clash, and put it in the slot this was in. So it all sounds pretty good until you realize you need the 1-0 Fran in memory for it to do anything, and that means there are 2 options. You can either make that card your main level 1 combo, which is not really recommended. It's like a mediocre combo like we talked about, or you can have Fran, attack with Fran, using the same climax combo, put her to memory, and then immediately put her into the bin with this card by reversing its battle opponent. So if you do the second way, you can only ever use 1 of him in 1 turn, because you'll only ever have 1 Fran in your memory. So that's not the greatest if you only want to just get 1 extra attack with Fafnir, which is in effect like 2 extra attacks because of how he I guess it's kind of like 2 extra attacks and a heal. But yeah, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through, and it's not necessarily going to be worth it, which is why we've both given him a C grade. He is still a cantrip, and he does pull out a heal if you jump through all the hoops. But there's just way too many cards you need for this to be particularly good.
Yeah.
And you need to reverse something. Like, that's not going to be guaranteed either.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, next card. Joan. She's a tap 2 search brainstorm for basically anything. She is a good card, but tap 2 is a fair bit worse than just tap 1. Search and salvage are like interchangeable. It's not that big a difference. I don't know. It's probably not as good as the Mordred Brainstorm, and it's comparable and probably slightly worse than the Fiore Brainstorm, but it is still a fine card, therefore B+.
Mm-hmm.
Next card is a 3k Siege. It gives all other characters the inability to side attack, and come and play mill 2. For every Homunculus Master or Servant you mill, it gains 1k for the turn, so it can be 5k if you are somewhat lucky. I don't think this is particularly good. I think it's just to come and play mill 2. Being 5k is not irrelevant, but it's very close to being irrelevant. I think that this is a D. It's not much more than the vanilla beta, and therefore I'm just not a big fan. The ditch bonded by thingy there is,
Value.
I don't
Ditch
think that's
bonded by the
particularly
itself with a bounce back to hand. Yeah, I
yeah,
think both
that's
cards are pretty lame.
yeah,
So
not great. All right, let's get on to a pretty decent card, Judge Joan. This is a 1/0 Maguro Climax combo. When it attacks, if you have 5 or less stock, you can do the Maguro effect. So, not super selective, but very free, and the 5 or less drawback doesn't really matter the first time round that you want to do this. And it's not something that you desperately want to use multiple times, unless it's just a random combination of cards you happen to have drawn. Perfectly serviceable level 1 combo, and will draw you towards playing yellow at level 1 if that is what you want to do. I see no reason to give this anything other than a B+.
Yep.
Right. Next card. We had an interesting discussion regarding this card. I'm sad that it got corrupted, but either way, this is it's a 3/2 that so let's be real. If you're going to play this, you're going to use the additional effect, which is ditching an extra card to gain a crap ton of power, and then doing an extra 1 damage at your encore step. Then you sack this card and choose up to 1 that Tisha, which is a 1/0 card we'll show later, in the slot this was in. So we compared this a lot to Fafnir, which is the next card, and it is very comparable, but at the end, I think our decision was that even though Fafnir might be the better card to have as of like a main game plan, this card is a totally fine card to just have as your third slot, or even in the back row, because this doesn't need to be in the front row to get the extra burn. And as a result, this is just a fine additional card to have, and that's why we've got it as B-, because it's not going to be the main plan, but it is certainly a fine card. It's an extra instance of damage, and it indicates that you want to use the power it gets, which is not insubstantial. It's like 18,000 or something, 18,500. You get to use it, and you get to kill something, which is great. Like, there's no problem there.
Mm-hmm.
So B- is where we landed. Okay, next card is Fafnir, which is basically the level 3 Mayoi from Monogatari, except it doesn't give 1 extra soul. So when you play it, you give a character on cancel burn 1, and then you send this card, so you send Fafnir to memory, face down. I just realized, if you send it face down, that means Persona 5 gets a free roll with their calling card combo cards. It's also a heal. This card is fine. The one issue with this card is that it's neither Master nor Servant and only Homunculus trait, which means that if you've got a card such as Fiore, the level 1 Brainstorm, or Fran, the Cheery in blue, you can't actually grab Fafnir, which makes it a bit harder to assemble a bunch of them. But at the same time, this is not as good as Mayoi, because Mayoi gave Soul, which means you're almost guaranteed to proc the 4 or 5 burns that you've stacked on something. Whereas here, it's just I think Bushiroad was correct in designing it this way. This way you can't stack a billion of them and expect to get a really good number of damage instances through. As a result, this is still a B+ card. It's not quite A territory, but it's a fantastic card, a really good finisher, customizable finisher to an extent, and it does heal. It's not A territory, like it's not Coco Chino good. It's fine. Alright, we've gone to the uncommons. This gene is a level 0 stock bomb, and you can ditch bonds to a 6/5 Sieg, which is I don't value stock bombs very highly. You might be surprised at how low this rating is, because at the end of the day, it's a 500 power stock bomb, right? I personally don't like level 0 stock bombs very much. I don't think they bring very much to the deck. I think that denying like, Kaban or whatever is cute, but that's a pure meta consideration. So unless you have a lot of kimono friends and, Clannad and stuff like that in your area, this isn't really a consideration at all. And the card it bonds to is mediocre at best. It's like it's fine. It's not great, which is why I gave it a D, and Tim Tom has agreed.
Yeah. I usually it's like you prefer stock bombs that tend to do other stuff that are like pretty good for you for the deck. It's like a nice addition to any like powerful utility that you run, anyways. Which is clearly just not the case with this bond effect. So,
Unfortunately, it does not have an effect which would be classed as a major benefit to the deck.
yep, because the card it bonds to is not that good.
Alright, so the next card we have is a pretty vanilla card. It's a pseudo Akashi, assist 500, and pay 2 tap to search for a character added to hand. It's just not efficient enough. There are way better effects that get cards for less cost.
Even better
And
assists in this set, even.
yeah, I think so. And as an assist, it's very mediocre. So 2 mediocre things do not make a good thing in this instance. It is a mediocre D. The next card is Bite a Command Seal, Joan. When this is placed from hand to stage, choose a character with one of gives 1/5. So it's a Poochie Mikan effect. It gives 1,500 to something. And when it's attacks, you can pay 1, flip a card in your level zone face down. If you do, all your other servants gain 1 soul for the turn. So, very cute effect. It's soul modulation, which is not nothing. It's a pretty worthwhile effect to just have on a beta. And it's also a power pump, which is not an effect that the set has in abundance. But the thing is, it doesn't give soul to itself, so it's not quite as good as slamming a climax. It's also kind of a mediocre beta by itself, so we landed on C because it is a neat card that you're happy to have in your deck, but it is not going to be your main game plan every game. It's not super amazing or anything, and it does compete with like Chiron and stuff for the flip down effects at level 1. However, it is probably pretty good at level, 3 or something in lieu of slamming another climax. So that's why it is a C.
Mm-hmm. You also can't use this the same turn you use like another level zone flipper unless you specifically.
Yeah, so like I said, you can't
back face up
unless you have Gene or what's
level
his name?
swapper.
Level swapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't like Chiron into this level 1. Not that you'd necessarily want to, but yeah. Alright, next card. 2/1 Seek. When it's placed from hand to stage, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 0 or lower, put it in stock. So it could be a 2/0, which is it's fine. It's probably not likely, but it's fine. And then you can start up, pay 2, flip a card in your level zone down, and send this to memory. If you do, put a level 3 TD's Black Saber, so Siegfried, in your hand, put it in this card's slot. That is I don't know, it's like 11/5 or 12, 11/5. It heals, and that's about it. And at the encore step, return that character to hand, put the 2/1 Sieg from memory into this card's slot. Now, unfortunately, you don't get another instance of check top, put the level 0 character into stock when you put it from memory, which would have been cool, but unfortunately they decided that was not something they wanted to do. This is basically a reusable heal. You can pay 2 to gain 1 soul and gain 1 and heal, because you get the Siegfried back in your hand to play at some point in the future. I don't think this is good enough. Like, it's an okay loop, but when it comes to quote-unquote early summons, which this technically qualifies as, you don't actually get the other benefit of the early summon, which is taking up a slot in field and forcing your opponent to answer it. You get a 2/1 7k, which is not very impressive. And what's even more problematic is that if you do use the effect, you're forced to put Sieg back onto the field. You can't just leave it empty and deny reverse or whatever, which would have been nice. Like, there's a lot they could have done with this card. As it stands, we've given it in a D rating or D plus rating, and that's not really that surprising. It's like a mediocre card, unfortunately. It's a cool idea, though. Alright, next card is Waiver. When it's placed from hand to stage, you can pay one, ditch one. If so, your opponent chooses the climax in the waiting room, then reshuffles everything else. Sometimes this will win you the game, but that's going to be very rare. It's a card that you don't have any problem in having in your deck, but it's off trait. It is only teacher trait as far as I can see, and because of that, you can't toolbox for it very easily outside of using Mordred, I think.
Yes.
As a result, it is not bad, but it's not great either. It means you're using Mordred as your brainstorm, and it means that sometimes you get a free win because your opponent is way too uncompressed. And that is where we put it at C-. Next card, 2/2 Dracula. We've given the appropriate rating that we gave the 1/1 Darnik. It is a fun card, and it's probably slightly better if your opponents aren't running wind triggers. But I think it is an actual liability later on, which is why I've given it a lower rating. Tom likes it a bit more, which is why he's given it a slightly higher rating.
Mm-hmm.
Next card, Psycho no Kuru. This is Gillies. Up to once turn, when you use a startup, give something 1k. So typical, Amagi Suga effect. And when a ruler is placed from stage to waiting room, you can sack this if it's in the back row to save that character. This is the third one we've seen, and none of them have been particularly impressive. This effect, you can play it for either of its effects, and neither effect is so good that you want to play it and be happy with it. So it is kind of like two mediocre effects adding together to make one. Kind of like the 0/0 Sieg support, and just like that card, we'll be giving it a D. I don't know who this next character is, but she looks like a
The
shit
mysterious challenger.
Shit character. Next card is Joan. She's a 1/5 counter. We've given it a D because it's a vanilla counter, but it's probably not actually that bad. You could give it a C if you wanted to. I don't think it's particularly impressive. You'd rather play the 1/0 Achilles, which is a very powerful card, whereas this is just actively mediocre, which is not a problem. You can
The
play it in your
Achilles
John
requires you to run other cards, though, that may or may not
Yeah,
be that
sure.
good.
Oh no, whatever will we do? So yeah, that's a D. Next card is the cool card we were talking about earlier, Letitia. It is a 1/0. Neg 1 soul to the opponent if you're level 3 or higher. So if you summon this using the La Pucelle gene, then you get a neg 1 soul, which is, it's debatable as to how good that is. I don't think it's particularly good. But the more impressive thing, I think, is the startup effect. You can bottom deck this from stage and put a level 3 advanced summon ruler equal to or lower than your level and put it in any slot on stage. So you're, instead of playing it for 2 stock, you're playing it for 1 card. And that's pretty good. I value that reasonably highly. I think that being able to choose what resource you use in the late game is pretty decent. And this is a very, very direct interpretation of that. Yeah, the other thing I remember talking about is how I couldn't figure out if she was sad or happy in that picture. She's sad because that's what the flavor text says. But yeah, it's basically sack it to play a advanced summon, and that's a pretty decent effect. The other thing is like whatever. I don't think I'd ever see that being useful. Even though it seems somewhat powerful, I don't think Neg 1 Soul is too good.
Well,
Okay,
it's the
next.
thing that gets summoned out by the burner. So the idea
Yeah.
is
But
like,
the idea is you summon this, and then you get a level 3,
and then you
like
trick them
a
into
stick.
siding it. It's a neg 2 soul.
Yeah, boy. The problem is, I'd rather just not have a character on field, to be honest. Alright, next one is Apocrypha Sieg. This is the Ditch Bomb target from the Stock Bomb, which is very mediocre. This is a 6/5. It gives something 1k for the... it's just a 6/5. So it is fine if you want to play level 1 game and want to have a counterable character.
Yeah.
It is a C. Next card, it is a 1/1/7/5, and if everything's dead, you can pay 1 to keep it alive. I'm not impressed by this. I've never been impressed by this. This is like a mediocre standby target. It's a mediocre card to play from your hand. You're not happy about it playing it, but it is not absolutely offensive to do so, and therefore I've given it a D. And Tom has agreed with me. So
Uh-huh.
yeah. Next card, 2/1 Self of Namira Gene. It is when it played from hand to stage, it gets a bunch of power, probably going to be 12k, and when it attacks, you can pay 1. If you do, choose a yellow stock soul in your climax zone, add it to your deck, and shuffle your deck. So this is, if it added the stock soul to your hand, then it might be a different story. But even then, it's too slow. Like, it starts at level 2, and it's just unfortunately not going to get there. It is, you do already get the stock soul effect because it's a auto effect, but that doesn't make this any better of a card, unfortunately. I've given it a D, and Tom's given it an F, which is fair enough. Like, I
I
can't
think
see
the
myself
timing is
playing
just
this
like way
either.
too late for this to be useful. Right? It's
Yeah, it's
effectively just like a mill your entire deck card, but like
kind of,
it basically is.
kind of.
Or wait.
What? I'm a
Yeah,
little
wait.
confused.
Oh, this like puts the
I'm
wait.
very
I'm
confused. What are
confused.
you
I
trying to do?
misread it.
What are you trying to
This
do? Like,
card
I thought you
sucks.
gave it this.
This card
It's
sucks.
it's still not a good card. Like, it still doesn't do
I
anything.
thought it was a refresh thing. Okay, never mind.
No, no, no. It just gives you back a climax to maybe cancel with.
Ugh, that's
Either way, it's
okay.
still not good.
That's
Still not good.
okay. Yeah. All right.
But I think you can also weigh it on a merit as an assassin. It's a 12k. Like, that's not
Uh,
nothing.
the
It's better than
is my
complete
response.
garbage, let's say that much. Alright, next card is a 1/1 event, Iris Veil. Look up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 yellow, 1 red, and 1 blue character, reveal them, add to your hand, then ditch a card. And then you know, everything else you didn't add goes away as well. The reason I've given it an F, despite it being a potential +1, is because it's so rarely going to be a +1. It makes you build your deck in like the dumbest way. Tom did the math. It's not good. It wouldn't be good even if you didn't have to discard a card from your hand.
Majority
Like,
of it,
even if
it's like a majority case. It's gonna be like a card neutral.
you're gonna break
You're gonna
even, I
break
feel,
even.
most of the time.
But it's like super non-selective. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, and ironically, it misses on itself. So, I mean,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
just not
it's
good.
just like so. Yeah, it's not good.
It's not like there are some events you can play as a one-off, like the Telever Aliens one or the Little Busters Twins one. Like, you can play them as a one-off and be fine. But this
If you're
card is
gonna
just
run this
not.
card, why would you not just run the camera event, right? I feel like
Yeah,
that's
no.
like the chance that the +1 is so rare. It's like so rare enough to the point where you'd actually consider playing a GI's camera event over this card. And I think that puts
Yeah,
this in a really, really bad spot as far as evaluation is concerned.
in fact, there are 2 pseudo camera events in this set, and they're both
Yes.
probably better than this.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's why we both gave it F, because I can't ever envision playing this. You've got to make your deck really bad for it to be even close to good, and even when it's good, it's not that good. It's like not selective or anything.
Yeah.
Alright, and the last card in yellow is a promo. It's a box topper. Poochie Gene. It's a level assist, and it also has the Akashi effect we saw in the Sieg earlier. So, I mean, it's slightly better than the Sieg because level X is a lot more substantial than Assist 500, and Pay to Tap is a perfectly reasonable effect to have access to in the late game. Not one you'd plan to use, but certainly a fine one, and therefore C is what we gave it.
Yes. All right. And that was
That,
yellow.
that is yellow.